Hello and welcome to Breaking Bread with Rivaaj Maharaj, where nothing is off the table. For today's episode, I wanted to talk on Keir Starmer's backtracking and flip-flopping around the Iran issue. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm sure you all seen, in the last 5 days, now in the last 7 days, everything that's been going on in Iran, unless of course you live under a rock. And being British, we all watched with amazement as our Prime Minister, our illustrious Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, Sir Keir Starmer. Now, if uniting people like this, then it makes you wonder, the absolute integrity of the word Sir, because you look at his flip-flopping, his back and forth, his speeches. He looks like a deer caught in a car's headlights. Absolutely no clue what he's saying, what he's doing. Scripted speech. The man looks like the man looks like the moron that he is. Really, he leaves nothing to the imagination. He came out strongly condemning, the attack, strongly saying that Britain would not be involved. Listen, you don't need to be a military strategist or a political analyst to understand that the day the Israelis and the Americans struck the Iranians, retaliation of some kind was expected. Now, knowing full well the firepower that was leveled against the Iranians and the fact that it is an existential threat for the Iranians, because the Iranian regime sees this fight, this war, as a threat to their very survival, their existence as the de facto government within Iran. So that is enough to tell you, or any grade 1 pupil, that Iran is going to fight to the death under this current regime. They are going to use everything and more that they have. Okay? So you didn't need to have some degree or some master's or PhD in any education faculty to understand that that was going to be the response. Needless to say, our illustrious Prime Minister went on to talk about how Britain was not going to be involved. So you've made a stance. You've then been humiliated by Donald Trump. Donald Trump mocked him, said that, he is nothing compared, I paraphrase, to a Winston Churchill. And that must have knocked Keir Starmer for a 6, because he's subsequently come out, firstly saying that, if you recall, missiles were fired at the RAF base in Cyprus. Now let's look at it logically. The Iranians are attacked. They don't immediately hit Israel, but they hit Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and all the Gulf nations. Then they've moved on. Apparently Turkey is now being hit. Azerbaijan has been hit. My point that I'm trying to make is that if after seeing all that, I knew that was going to happen before the Iranians even launched a war. I'm not a political analyst. I'm just somebody that follows the news, has a take on it, and I'm voicing my opinion. I'm not even the Prime Minister of this country. Yet I could see that that was an inevitability. So, naturally, if the Iranians are prepared to hit the UAE and the Arab nations because of their standing with the United States and Israel, you don't need to have a degree, or you don't need to have an IQ above 2 to understand that the UK is a threat as well. But nevertheless, our Prime Minister saw it fit to stand on this moral high horse, this Mandela Arafat type figure, that we are not involved. Mate, you are the British Prime Minister. Britain is joined at the hip to the United States. If anything, you are a impotent vassal subservient to the United States. The day you took the position as Prime Minister, you became a tool of the United States. Understand that. You cannot be so thick and delusional not to understand that. I don't have a problem with that. However, what I do have a problem is either your stupidity or your inability to understand the position you're in, or your stupidity and inability to make a correct decision, or any decision. Because you don't, as I said again, you do not need a degree to reach a level of understanding that you were within Iran's crosshairs. You don't wait for your base to be struck. You don't wait for your British soldiers' lives to be threatened before you then decide to go and take some form of action and flip-flop around the world stage like a moron, making us look even more pathetic than you've already done to our once great nation. Okay? And that is where we are today. He's now gone and allowed the US to use these bases. Why? Because lives of British servicemen and women may be put to the test. They were put to the test the day the Israelis and the Americans bombed them. The Iranians. That's the day it was put to the test. This prime minister is nothing but a joke. His inability to take a stance. Even if you took the stance of not supporting the Israelis and the Americans, I will still respect you for that, because I'm respecting you for making a decision rather than making decisions and backtracking all the time. Because the conservatives are giving you grief, you suddenly feel that, oh, I need to change. So where is your integrity? Where do you stand on policy? And saying that, you're only allowing the Americans to use the base for, bombing against Iranian missile facilities and launches. At some point, they're going to use it for other purposes as well. You knew that this was going to be an inevitability. What I don't understand is why the decisions were not made at the beginning. Why do you always wait to play second fiddle? We're going to be back to where the British were at the time of the Second World War. Appeasement doesn't get you anywhere. Anyway, I want to thank you for spending time with us. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, as it helps us with the algorithm and it helps our channel to grow.